I hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin. It was a Friday evening, the kind of evening that pretends to be peaceful. The sky outside our Mumbai apartment was slowly bleeding orange as the sun dipped behind the skyline. My wife Mira had set the table for 6. The scent of butter chicken, garlic naan, and her signature rice kheer floated through the room like everything was normal. My mother praised her cooking for the 100th time. My brother laughed too loud at a joke I didn't make. Mira sat across from me, her eyes avoiding mine every time they passed. Then my phone vibrated. It was a message from an unknown number. Just a single line. You deserve to know the truth. Attached, a 15-second video clip. I didn't want to open it. Not because I feared what I might see, but because a small voice inside me already knew. I pressed play. It was her, Mira, in a hotel room, half-dressed, laughing, with someone else. The phone slipped from my fingers onto the floor. My chair scraped back loudly as I stood. Everyone looked at me. Ravi, my mother asked. You okay? I didn't answer. I just turned the phone around and held it out for Mira to see. Her face, usually unreadable, twitched for a moment. Then she said it. You're overreacting. That was the moment everything collapsed. Not because she cheated, but because everyone else kept eating like nothing had happened. Hey, if you're still watching, that means you're enjoying the story. I have one small request. I'm trying to reach my first 1,000 subscribers. If you like stories like this, please hit the like button and subscribe to join the journey. It means a lot to me, and trust me, even better stories are coming. Now let's continue story. Later that night, when the guests were gone and silence had fallen like dust, I confronted her in our bedroom. You didn't even deny it, I said quietly. She was removing her earrings, completely unbothered. What's the point? You saw it. So now what? So now what? I echoed. You slept with someone else. And your reaction is to ask what's next? Like we're discussing weekend plans? She finally turned to look at me. You've been emotionally absent for months, Ravi. You don't even notice when I get my hair done. You come home late. You barely talk. What did you expect? I was stunned. So your excuse is my bad communication? That gave you permission to destroy our marriage. She sat on the bed, calmly. It was just physical. It didn't mean anything. That sentence, that cold dismissal, punched harder than anything. Like I was a fool for caring. Like the betrayal wasn't real unless it was emotional. I pulled out a flash drive. I downloaded everything. Chats, photos, the hotel booking confirmations. Don't worry. I'll be generous in the divorce. But she smirked. There won't be a divorce. You know your family. You'll be the one blamed. And you'll come crawling back, like you always do. That's when it hit me. She wasn't afraid. She was confident I'd never leave. Because she thought I had no one on my side. And unfortunately, she was right. The next morning, I sat in my parents' living room. My brother and sister-in-law were already there, acting like I'd called an emergency meeting for something petty. I laid it all out. No drama. Just facts. She's been cheating. I have proof. I'm ending this marriage. Silence. Then my mother spoke, sipping her tea. Beta, you can't end a marriage over one mistake. One mistake? This has been going on for months, I said. My father raised his hand. Marriage is not perfect. Your mother and I had our problems too. You worked through them. I couldn't believe it. She's been lying, stealing money from our joint account, and sleeping with someone else. And you want me to stay quiet? My brother cleared his throat. Honestly, 5 people will talk. Do you really want our family name dragged into gossip? My sister-in-law added, think of your mother's heart condition. Stress isn't good for her. And there it was. Not one person said, that's terrible. You don't deserve this. Not one person asked how I was holding up. All they saw was inconvenience, reputation, noise. I stood up. So basically, you all want me to accept it because dealing with truth is uncomfortable. My father didn't flinch. A man holds his house together. If you leave now, it'll be seen as weakness. It wasn't weakness I felt. It was clarity. That was the day I realized. I didn't lose a wife. I lost an entire family in one sitting. That night I sat in my car outside the apartment, windows rolled up, engine off, suffocating in the silence. I wasn't crying. I wasn't angry. I was just empty. Like someone had taken a spoon and scooped the insides out of me. I opened my voice recorder and started talking, just talking. Because no one else was listening. Apparently, I'm supposed to be a man about this. Be strong, forgive, move on. Like my dignity is a luxury I can't afford. Like being cheated on is just an inconvenience, not a violation. I paused, staring at my reflection in the rearview mirror. I'm not mad she cheated. I'm mad that it didn't matter to anyone. Flashbacks crashed in, memories I hadn't invited. My wedding day. My father pulling me aside, saying, "Keep your head down. Make peace your habit." That's how men survive. My first anniversary, when Mira left in the middle of dinner to take a call from work. I found out later it wasn't work, it was him. All those red flags I ignored because I wanted to believe I had something real. No one had ever listened. Not when I had dreams that didn't fit their mold. Not when I tried to express what was wrong. They didn't want a person. They wanted a function, provider, protector, problem swallower. Well, they got what they wanted. Until now. Because that night, I made a decision. If no one was going to protect me, then I would protect what little I had left. Myself. The silence between us grew like mold. I stopped sleeping in the same bed, but we were still under the same roof. She pretended everything was fine. She laughed on phone calls, posted Instagram stories of our happy life, smiled at my mother like nothing had changed. And every night, she went into that bedroom, closed the door, and FaceTimed someone. I knew who. I recorded everything. Sometimes I watched her sleep from the hallway, just watched. The way someone watches a snake in a glass cage. Beautiful, deadly, utterly untouchable. I stopped talking to my family entirely. My mother texted daily, "Forgive, heal, move forward." My brother sent jokes. Like nothing ever happened. I began researching. Laws. Financial loopholes. Disappearance tactics. Offshore accounts. Data encryption. It wasn't a meltdown. It was a mission. A transformation. At work, I smiled. Delivered presentations. Signed deals. No one knew the man standing there had already burned his old life to the ground inside his mind. One evening, I came home early. I heard her laughing in the kitchen with someone. Not on the phone. In person. It was him. Standing right there, drinking juice from my glass like he owned the place. I didn't say a word. I just walked past them, went to my room, and wrote down every single detail. They thought they were winning, but they had no idea what I was building in the shadows. My birthday came 2 weeks later. She threw a party. Invited everyone, my family, our neighbors, even some of her friends. She made it look perfect. String lights. Cake with my name on it. Balloons in the shape of 35. A curated life for the world to applaud. Everyone laughed. Took pictures. Hugged me. Except me. I stood in the middle of it all, watching it like an out-of-body experience. As if I was attending a celebration of someone who died years ago. Then it happened. She stood in front of everyone and said, "I know I don't say it often, but Ravi is the most loyal, loving husband anyone could ask for." People clapped. I laughed. Loudly. Everyone turned. "What's funny?" she asked, confused. "I'm just thinking how amazing it is," I said, "that you can lie so well with a cake knife in your hand." Awkward silence followed. My mother shot me a warning look. My wife smirked. "Ignore him. Everyone. He's just stressed from work." I walked out mid-party, stood in the hallway, and whispered to myself, this is the last birthday they'll ever celebrate with me. I knew then I wouldn't be here much longer. I was going to vanish. Not to escape, but to rebuild. The last person I thought would understand did. My father. He was never the emotional kind. Raised me with more commands than conversations. But when I told him everything quietly, just the two of us on the balcony while everyone inside laughed at Mira's party speech, he sat there in silence for a long time. Didn't defend her. Didn't try to justify anything. He just asked one question. "You still believe in justice?" I stayed silent. He nodded slowly. I did too. Once. Before I realized some people don't deserve your dignity. They deserve your distance. I looked at him, surprised. "You're not telling me to forgive her?" He chuckled without humor. "Forgiveness is for the innocent. You're not a monk, Ravi. You're a man. And men like us, we either swallow poison or we become it." For the first time in weeks, someone had seen me. Before going back inside, he said something I'll never forget. "Revenge won't fix your heart, but it'll remind them you had one." He went inside, leaving me with a thought I couldn't shake. Maybe I wasn't losing my mind. Maybe I was finally waking up. It started at 2:12 a.m. with a single question. If I disappeared today, what would happen? I grabbed a notebook. On page 1, I listed everything I'd need to vanish without a trace. Bank login, secondary phone burner, SIM's identity, change contacts, travel plans with no digital footprint, access to my savings without alerting her, next 10 pages. Passwords. Withdrawal timings, GPS tracking, deactivations, a fake company profile for cover, and creating an Armin Kale on paper complete with forged documents. I spent 28 hours straight building it like a man possessed. No sleep, no breaks, just water and the sound of my fingers hitting the keyboard like gunfire. I hacked into our joint financials, gathered proof of every unauthorized withdrawal she made, traced where she funneled it, into her affair partner's side business. They weren't just cheating, they were stealing from me. I created an auto-release drive. If anything happened to me, emails would go to journalists, cops, ex-employees. All encrypted, all timed. By the 28th hour, I wasn't exhausted. I was alive. This wasn't just revenge anymore. It was justice, handcrafted, tailored, and unstoppable. I played it cool. Told everyone I'd booked a weekend getaway for Mira and myself to reconnect. My mother cried. Said she was proud of me. My brother sent a thumbs up. Mira looked confused, but greedy. She packed fast. Before we left, I took a selfie. All of them behind me. Big smiles. My father's hand on my shoulder. They had no idea. That photo was the last time I'd ever be in a frame with them. We got to the train station. I pretended I'd forgotten my wallet and told Mira to wait near the platform. Then I slipped into a different terminal, walked past 2 guards, boarded a train under a new name, and vanished before they could even call security. While the train pulled away from Mumbai, I stared out the window, watching the city shrink behind me. I wasn't running away. I was rewriting my story. And if you've made it this far, watching this moment unfold, you're not just a viewer. You're part of this. So let me ask you something. Where are you watching this from? What city are you in right now? Delhi, Lahore, London, Dubai, maybe even somewhere I've never heard of. Type your city in the comments. Let me know where this story is reaching. Because trust me, this journey is just getting started. And I want to know who's really listening. When I stepped off the train in a small coastal town 3 states away, there was no grand music playing. No dramatic wind. Just a dull breeze, the faint smell of sea salt, and the hum of rickshaws. But inside me, everything had changed. Ravi was dead. I had buried him somewhere between Platform 9 and my old life. Now, I was Armin Kale. I checked into a rundown guest house under my new name. No ID required, cash only. The room was basic. 1 fan, 1 bed, 1 table, no questions. I stayed in that room for 3 days straight. Not to hide, to shed. I shaved my beard, changed my posture, switched from left-hand dominant to right, trained myself to speak with a slight accent, changed every habit that made me recognizable. I studied people, their slang, the rhythm of the town, became part of the background noise. And I burned everything Ravi had ever touched, photos, SIM cards, clothes, even his wedding ring. Mira would report me missing. The police might file a report. My family would probably spin a story about emotional instability. And when no body showed up, they'd assume the worst. Perfect. The world had buried me. Now I was free to resurrect on my own terms. Armin Kale was born in Goa, but never lived there. He worked remotely as a cybersecurity analyst. He preferred quiet cafes over clubs, rarely drank, and always paid in cash. He was the guy nobody remembered 10 minutes after meeting him. I created him with precision. Got a local SIM with fake credentials. Opened a crypto wallet under a shell email. Rented a small studio above a mechanic's shop, close enough to noise, far enough from questions. Then, I got to work. I launched a fake consulting service. Just a landing page, LinkedIn profile, and a few testimonials I generated with AI. Enough to look legitimate. Enough to hide behind. But that wasn't the real job. At night, I built something else, a system that tracked digital footprints of people like Mira and her affair partner. People who lied, manipulated, cheated, and moved on like their victims were disposable. I started building profiles. Pattern matching affairs. Bank frauds. Emotional abuse cases. Each story was like a mirror, flawed, heartbreaking, familiar. But I wasn't doing this for justice alone. I was looking for allies. People like me. People with scores to settle. The foundation of something bigger was forming, and Armin Kale would be the face of it. It started with a local support group. I showed up out of curiosity, not hope. 10 women, different ages, same pain in their eyes. One had been conned into funding her husband's secret second family. Another was gaslit for years until she thought she was the problem. One was left at the altar. She never deleted the wedding dress photos. I said nothing for the first few sessions, just listened. But one day, after a woman shared how her husband emptied their joint savings and disappeared, I couldn't help myself. Did you track where the money went? She looked at me, confused. I'm not a hacker. I offered help quietly, carefully. She gave me some details. In 2 days, I traced every rupee, found his new location, even the woman he was staying with. When I gave her the file, she cried. Not because of what she saw, because someone finally did something. Word spread. Quietly, they started coming to me, asking for help, truth, closure, and sometimes payback. I didn't charge them. Not yet. I didn't want their money. I wanted their rage. Because rage was fuel, and I was building a machine. I started small. The man who ghosted his wife and left her to raise 2 kids alone? He had a side hustle selling fraudulent real estate packages in Bangalore. I planted a tracker in his site's backend. Then, I sent everything, chat logs, payment fraud records, fake contracts, to the local economic crimes unit. His business collapsed in 10 days. The woman came back to thank me. I didn't say a word, just nodded. Next, a corporate executive cheating on his pregnant wife. His mistress didn't know he was married. I exposed him using one anonymous blog post with geotagged images, matched timestamps, and a thread so compelling it hit Twitter's trending tab for 2 days. I wasn't just outing cheaters. I was weaponizing truth. Every lie left a trace. Every affair left a shadow. All I had to do was follow the patterns, connect the dots, and hand the evidence to the right place, or the public. My alias gained traction online in dark circles. People started calling me the ghost in the wires. But I didn't care about fame. I cared about reach. And soon, it would stretch back to the people who started this. I watched her every day. From fake accounts, through data I'd quietly siphoned out of her phone before disappearing. She had no idea. Mira's Instagram was still full of lies. Pictures of candles, spa days, captions like, "Healing is messy but beautiful." People commented, "Stay strong, queen. You deserve better." Meanwhile, she was still seeing him. The same man who used to drink from my glass in my house. I knew where they met. What time? What restaurant? I even knew his car's plate number. But I didn't act yet. I waited. Because pain delivered too soon feels like chaos. But pain delivered right on time feels like design. Instead, I created a private archive. All her lies, edits, manipulations, contradictions between her posts and her reality. Then I made a new handle at Chronicles of Mira. It followed her. It reposted her stories, juxtaposed with truth. Screenshot conversations. Leaked timestamps. Hotel receipts. The difference between her words and actions, side by side. It grew followers. Quietly. Slowly. Then one of her brand deals dropped her. She posted a long note. Cyberbullying is real. Pray for peace, not hate. Peace? She stole mine. She dismantled my entire sense of self. And now I was rebuilding it, one public fracture at a time. They say revenge is best served cold. Mine came like winter in a graveyard, slow, quiet, and suffocating. Her affair partner, let's call him Vern, was a mid-tier tech consultant. Show-off type. Flashy car, motivational quotes in every bio, trying to pass himself off as self-made. His startup was bleeding money. That was easy to confirm. What wasn't easy, but more fun, was what I did next. I cloned his business email interface. Just close enough that even he wouldn't know the difference. Then I sent a few messages to his investors. Polite. Subtle. Considering pulling out. Financial discrepancies seem unresolved. Concerned about your recent trip to Bangkok. Personal funds used. I didn't even have to hack anything. Just suggest the story. Investors panicked. Deals froze. Within a month, his business was dead. Staff left. PR team bailed. His reputation? Gone. I watched him post a desperate video. People are trying to destroy me. Lies are being spread. I'm not going anywhere. I smiled, because he had no idea I'd never left. And Mira? She was next. I thought betrayal had a face. Turns out, it had a family photo. I always believed my brother, Nikhil was indifferent, not malicious. A follower, not a player. But then I found the trail. A WhatsApp voice note, forwarded unknowingly by one of Mira's old contacts who had switched sides. It was Nikhil, talking to Mira, 3 days before I disappeared. Convince him to stay quiet. Use the family card. If you can't handle it, I'll talk to him myself. Just don't let him file anything legal. My father-in-law is investing in my business next month, and I don't want the scandal near me. I froze the audio, played it again. Slower. My own brother had made a deal with her side of the family money in exchange for my silence. While I sat at that family meeting, looking for support, he was already counting the price of my humiliation. The blood ran cold, but the focus burned hotter than ever. I didn't need enemies. I had relatives. I poured myself a drink that night. One of the rare ones. Not to numb, just to mark it. Not all funerals have coffins. Some just have memories you no longer visit. Nikhil had always been sloppy with his passwords. It took me 5 minutes to get into his cloud storage. 8 to copy every file from his office drive. Inside, I found invoices that didn't match, client contracts with forged signatures, and a pattern of siphoning investor funds into personal purchases, luxury watches, foreign trips, gifts for a woman not his wife. He had built his life like a house of mirrors, shiny on the outside, fragile within. I sent one tip-off email to the tax department, CC'd an anonymous journalist with the subject line, Audit Red Flag, Anonymous Concerned Citizen. The rest took care of itself. Nikhil's funding froze. His partners backed out. His name popped on a trending list titled, The Great Indian Startup Scam. He tried calling me. Of course, he didn't know I was alive, but he still had my number saved. The message said, Bye, I don't know who's doing this, but someone's ruining me. If you hear anything, please let me know. I'm losing everything. I read it, then deleted it. I wasn't ruining him. He just finally met the consequences he thought would never arrive. This one was art. I hired an actress. Not a high-end model. A regular woman, sharp, smart, with a laugh that made people trust her in seconds. She went by Priya online. Created a fake LinkedIn. Mutual business connections. A fake marketing startup. It took 2 weeks of subtle likes, messages, and voice notes before Nikhil bit the bait. They started chatting. She told him she was impressed by his work. He ate it up. 3 more days, and he was flirting. Nothing explicit, but enough to be unprofessional. I guided her every step. Every message she sent had a purpose. A keyword. A timestamp. By the 4th week, he sent a message, maybe next time you're in town, we don't talk about business. That was enough. I packaged the entire chat history into a PDF and emailed it to his actual investors under a burner identity tied to an employee whistleblower. I didn't need them to believe every word, just enough to shake their confidence. Within 72 hours, they released a statement. We are temporarily distancing ourselves from Mr. Nikhil Sharma until internal inquiries are complete. He posted a photo the next day. Alone. No caption. I stared at it for a while. Then whispered, we're even now. But I wasn't done. Mira was still standing. And I was saving the loudest storm for last. Mira had always been a performer. So when she was invited to speak at a high-profile women's empowerment gala, she leaned into it like she was born for the stage. The posters had her face. The hashtags were prepped. Healing Through Truth. Keynote by Mira Sharma. Irony. Meet Spotlight. She wore a white sari. Pure. Clean. Forgiving. She stood under a gold-lit archway, giving sound bites to journalists. I've been through emotional betrayal, but I rose from it. I forgave. And I healed. That's my message. She didn't know that backstage, the projector technician had received an anonymous USB labeled, "Play this when she says the word forgiveness." And when that word left her mouth, the screen behind her blinked and played a silent reel. 10 seconds of WhatsApp chats. Hotel receipts. The video. The room fell into silence. She turned around mid-sentence. The audience shifted in their chairs. Phones came out. Some gasped. Others filmed. She froze, then ran offstage. The host tried to recover, fumbling into the next speaker. But the damage was done. That night, #Mirror the Myth trended. It was the first crack. The mask didn't fall. It shattered. I thought I was in the clear. Hidden. Until I wasn't. It was a Tuesday. I was walking out of a local cafe in the town I now called home. Hood up, head low, when I heard a voice I hadn't heard in years. Ravi. I turned. It was Rishi, college roommate, one of the few real friends I ever had. He squinted, confused. It is you, isn't it? You look different. I forced a smile. You've got the wrong guy. But he wasn't stupid. Don't lie, man. I know those eyes. What the hell happened to you? I didn't respond. He followed me for a few blocks, asking questions, trying to connect dots. Finally, I turned around. You never asked me how I was when I vanished. You just saw headlines, didn't call once, didn't message. He swallowed. We thought you were gone, dead. That's what I wanted you to think, I said. He stood in silence. So this is real? You're hiding. I'm not hiding, I said. I'm watching. And I'm not done. He hesitated. Do you need help? That stopped me. Help? It was the first time in a year someone asked me that without a hidden motive. I nodded. Once. And just like that, I had an ally. I needed to disappear even deeper. After the Gallus scandal, Mira had gone quiet, but her family hadn't. Her uncle, a local MLA, tried calling in favors. Social media reports flagged the viral content as manipulated. Lawyers were sniffing around. I couldn't afford exposure. So I did something radical. I filed Ravi Sharma's death certificate. Yes, it's possible in India, especially if you grease the right palms and fabricate the right missing person report. I backdated it 6 months. Claimed drowning. I forged signatures. Doctor's stamp. Police report. Witness. And once the system accepted it, Ravi Sharma officially no longer existed. I got 2 things from it. Legal detachment from everything tied to my old identity. Access to a death benefit payout from a dormant insurance policy. Now I wasn't just a ghost in the wires. I was a ghost on paper, too. And while everyone was wondering how Mira would rebuild her image, I was building something else entirely. A war chest. Because her empire ran on public sympathy and silence. And I was going to choke both. I hadn't thought about children since I vanished. The thought of being a father used to mean something. A future, a legacy. That had died long before I did. So when I stumbled across a post Mira had made, her in a hospital gown, hands on her stomach, captioned grateful, new beginnings. I felt nothing at first, until I saw the comments. Her family congratulating her. Friends guessing the gender. Then one that stuck out. So happy for you both. Varun will be an amazing father. Varun. The man she cheated with. I did the math. Based on the post date, and the timeline of my disappearance, that child couldn't possibly be mine. But what if she lied? What if she told the world I was the father, to shield her from backlash? To rewrite the narrative? A grieving widow with a child from her dead husband? I checked the hospital records through backdoor access. She had registered under Mrs. Mira Sharma. Emergency contact, my mother. And the baby's surname? Sharma. That was the moment something shifted in me. This wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was identity theft of the dead man I used to be. I tried to ignore the child. Tried to convince myself that he was just a pawn in her game. Another accessory to her curated victimhood. But late one night, I found myself staring at a blank screen, fingers frozen, breathing heavy. Then I started writing. Not to Mira. To the boy. You don't know me. But everyone around you will say my name like a faded photo, either with too much praise or too much silence. I'm not a hero, and I'm not your father. But I am the reason you exist in the life you do. And I want you to know something they won't tell you. You were not born from love. You were born from a lie. But that doesn't make you unworthy. It just makes you free. Don't grow up trying to fix the past. Just be better than it. I didn't send the letter. I burned it. Because children shouldn't have to carry the sins of people who named them. But I remembered his name. I remembered that he would one day grow up and maybe stumble upon the truth. And I decided, when that day came, I'd be ready with the full story. No lies. Just facts. Just like I wish someone had done for me. It was 3:17 a.m. I hadn't slept. The windows were open. The breeze rolled in like a quiet song. I stood in front of the mirror, shirtless, bruised eyes, stubble thick. But I looked awake. Not angry. Not lost. Clear. I'd spent so much of my life being someone else's something. Son, husband, provider, placeholder. Now, I was just a man with no name and no leash. And for the first time since I walked away from that train station, I smiled. Not because I was proud. Not because I'd won. But because I had nothing left to lose. Revenge hadn't healed me, but it had revealed me. And soon, the world would meet that version of me. It came out of nowhere. A 3-minute video. Shaky camera. Natural light. No makeup. Mira, sitting on her bed, eyes puffy, voice trembling. There's been a lot of hate. A lot of lies. And yes, some of it is true. I did betray someone. Someone who didn't deserve it. I'm not perfect. I never claimed to be. But I want to say sorry. Not for sympathy, but for peace. If you're watching this, I'm sorry. Uploaded at 11:02 a.m. By noon, it was everywhere. Instagram, WhatsApp forwards, news sites. She finally speaks. Honest and brave. From villain to human. And just like that, the tide shifted. People started forgetting the facts. They started talking about her healing. Forgiveness culture did what it always does, swallowed accountability in exchange for a good monologue. But not with me, because I knew something the public didn't. Her tears weren't for me. They were for the brand deal she'd lost. The invites that stopped coming. The camera that didn't turn up last weekend. I didn't hate her for the video. I hated that it was working. But I had something she didn't know was coming. Something that would make that apology look like a warm-up act. It started with a DM. No profile pic. No bio. Just a message. You're not the first one she did this to. If you want the full story, meet me. I ignored it. Then another message came. An old wedding photo, Mira standing next to a different man. Dated 7 years before I met her. His name was Aniket. We met in a half-lit bar outside Pune. He looked older, tired, like someone who had survived something no one believed. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were photos, messages, hotel receipts, just like mine. Same patterns. Same sweet-talking voice notes. Same cold detachment once she drained him emotionally and financially. She got into my head, he said. Turned my family against me. I almost killed myself the day she left. He paused. She's not impulsive. She's methodical. She studies her targets. Becomes what you need. And then she takes. I stared at the evidence. Familiar thoughts. Familiar excuses. She has a type, I muttered. No, he said. She has a strategy. It hit me like a train. I hadn't married a woman. I'd walked into a blueprint. And that meant, if I was part of a pattern, I could predict her next move. I went into full lockdown mode. I mapped out everything Mira had done over the last 10 years. Multiple cities. Different men. Each relationship ended in the same way. Emotional collapse, financial damage, and social isolation. For them, not her. Her father had filed legal threats against at least 2 of them. Her victim story had protected her every time. She was never reckless. She was clinical. I cross-referenced every detail with Aniket's folder, then started reaching out to others. 3 replies. One from a man in Bangalore who lost his restaurant after she took half of it in a live-in breakup settlement. Another from an NRI in Dubai who had secretly funded her fake startup. The last from a woman. Not someone Mira dated, but someone whose husband she destroyed. Together, we began collecting stories. Bank slips. Voice notes. Threat messages. Psychological evaluations. Patterns. This wasn't personal anymore. This was organized abuse. Hidden under the disguise of victimhood. I knew what I had to do next. I wasn't going to expose Mira. I was going to document her. Frame by frame. Case by case. And then I'd let the world see her the way I did. Without filters. Without edits. Without pity. We launched the channel quietly. No fanfare. No teasers. Just a black screen. White text. Chronicles of a Predator. The Mira Sharma Blueprint. Episode 1 dropped at midnight. It wasn't loud. It was methodical. A calm narrator's voice. Meet Mira Sharma. Advocate of healing. Brand ambassador of pain. And a woman with a 12-year trail of psychological, emotional, and financial destruction. We layered the timeline. Her marriages. Affairs. The assets she took. The family she broke. Every claim backed with documents, voice notes, legal threats. No name calling. Just facts. No revenge porn. Just receipts. The episode ended with a haunting line. This is not an expose. This is protection for the next person she targets. In 48 hours, the video crossed 2.7 million views. By the weekend, the algorithm took over. Influencers reacted. Legal channels debated. Some women called her an abuser hiding behind feminism. Others asked, What if she's the real victim? And that's exactly what we wanted. To open a door that couldn't be closed. Because Mira didn't just hurt people. She taught them to stay silent. And we just taught the world how to speak. I met them one by one. In cafes, parking lots, train stations, neutral places where the past wouldn't follow. Aniket was the first. Then came Priya, the woman who nearly lost custody of her daughter after Mira accused her of emotional instability for defending her own husband. We formed a group. Not for therapy. For execution. Each of us brought something. Aniket had court records. Priya had media contacts. A man named Freeze had access to surveillance tech from his days in private security. We divided tasks like a heist team. I handled the digital trail. Aniket worked on public pressure campaigns. Freeze compiled behavioral patterns, what she said versus what she did. Priya? She wrote. She turned our chaos into coherent, deadly narrative. We called ourselves the Undone. Not because we were victims. Because we were unfinished business. Mira had treated us like drafts, scribbled through, torn out, discarded. Now we were publishing her story. On our terms. Episode 2 dropped 1 week after the first. Titled, Healing is Her Weapon. We broke down the structure of her apologies. Word for word. Compared her language over the years, same keywords, same order, same tone. We exposed her playbook. Step 1, deny. Step 2, gaslight. Step 3, cry. Step 4, rebrand. It wasn't just about her anymore. It was about how society fetishizes forgiveness, how some people weaponize vulnerability to escape consequence. The comments exploded. I dated someone just like this. This is giving me closure I didn't know I needed. She's not a one-time mistake. She's a repeat offender. Brands that had once partnered with her began deleting their old campaigns. Her publicist released a statement. Mira is taking time off to heal in private. Private? Not anymore. She wasn't the only one with a camera now. And we weren't just telling a story. We were flipping the genre. From tragedy to reckoning. We knew she'd hit back. But not like this. A legal notice arrived in the inbox tied to the Chronicles channel. Thick, threatening language. Defamation. Cyber harassment. Intent to incite violence. Damages claimed. 2 Indian rupees crore. Mira had filed suit against all of us. Me, Priya, Aniket, Faiz, under her real name and a newly formed foundation, the Mira Sharma Healing Initiative. She wasn't just defending her image. She was capitalizing on the backlash. TV News ran her lawyer's statement. This is a clear example of a coordinated smear campaign by bitter ex-partners and fringe elements with personal vendettas. Mira has chosen healing. They've chosen hate. It worked for a while. She got airtime, sympathy, retweets from influencers with hashtag #LetHerHeal. Brands started circling back. Soft offers. PR articles with headlines like, maybe we misjudged her. It stung. Not because she was winning, but because she was twisting pain into marketing again, and this time, ours. But we didn't panic. We went quiet. Because that's what wolves do right before they strike. Then came the call I'd been dreading. My mother. Unlisted number. I picked up by reflex. Her voice was soft. Tired. Ravi. I know it's you. Silence. Then, I don't know what's happening. People are saying terrible things. She's crying on TV. They're calling you cruel. I didn't respond. I didn't raise you to destroy someone like this, she said. Whatever she did, this is not who you are. My hands clenched the phone. Who I am. She didn't ask that when I was disappearing. Didn't question Mira when she rewrote the narrative. Now that the world was watching, now she remembered she had a son? I'm not destroying her, I said quietly. I'm just showing people what I had to survive. She didn't answer right away. Then, sometimes, to survive, you become worse than the thing you escaped. I hung up, not in anger, in confirmation. She was right. But what she didn't get was this. I wasn't trying to be good anymore. I was just trying to finish what they started. It happened without warning. Episode 3 dropped at 9 a.m. By 10 o'clock, it had over 1 million views. This time, we didn't just talk about Mira. We presented a timeline of 8 victims, men and women. Different years. Different cities. Same playbook. The voiceover read, this isn't about broken hearts. It's about pattern destruction. This isn't one story. This is a system, built by one woman, shielded by silence, protected by privilege. We ended with something new. a leaked voice recording. Mira, last year, talking to her friend. If they speak, I'll bury them. I know how to cry. I know how to make people feel sorry for me. That's my real skill. When that hit, the internet detonated. Hashtag Chronicles of Mira trended again, but this time, even her defenders fell silent. Brand deals dropped overnight. Her lawyer quit. A day later, her foundation website vanished. By evening, she deleted her Instagram. And just like that, the woman who curated an empire of image was erased by her own words. But I didn't celebrate, because I knew what was coming next. The part where silence falls. Right before the storm turns inward. The numbers were in. Over 10 million views across 3 episodes. Thousands of comments. Mira's apology re-uploads were now met with laughing emojis and disbelief. Her TEDx talk, removed. Her Wikipedia page locked due to edit wars. Her brand, non-existent. I should have felt something. Joy. Relief. Closure. But I didn't. I just sat in the same chair I'd used to build the whole thing, watching the screen go dark after another interview request. I wasn't happy. I wasn't even satisfied. I was, still. Like a boxer who throws every punch he has, then stands in the ring wondering why the noise doesn't feel like a win. Freeze called. You saw the fallout? Yeah, I said. You did it, man. Yeah, I repeated. But in my chest, nothing. Just the echo of a question I hadn't let myself ask yet. If justice feels this empty, what was I really chasing? The notification came at 2:38 a.m. A DM from a burner account. She's in the ICU. Try to overdose. Might not make it. I stared at it for a long time. Checked news alerts. One report, controversial influencer Mira Sharma hospitalized. Sources say stress and mental health challenges triggered collapse. The public started flipping again. Was the backlash too much? She made mistakes, but did she deserve this? Cancel culture ruins lives. I didn't respond. I didn't post. I just sat there, motionless, hearing every second tick louder than the last. Because this wasn't part of the plan. I didn't want her gone. I wanted her aware. Alive to feel what I felt. To watch everything she built fall in front of her and know why it happened. Aniket messaged, if she dies, it's on her. Not us. Freeze added, we showed the truth. We didn't choose her ending. But a small part of me couldn't stop wondering, had I crossed the line? Not legally. Not digitally. But morally. Had I become the thing I was trying to destroy? The next morning, I walked. No phone. No laptop. No disguise. Just me. I found a quiet park near the edge of the city, sat on a broken bench, and finally, let myself feel. I remembered the version of me from a year ago. Ravi Sharma, the man with dinner plans and weekend routines, who used to think betrayal would come with thunder and warning signs. He was gone, burned, buried under scripts, aliases, and IP cloaks. I closed my eyes and asked myself the question I had been avoiding for months. Did you win? Silence. Then came the answer. You survived. Not as a clean man. Not as a good one. But as someone who refused to be erased. I wasn't proud of every move. But I was done pretending that justice ever comes without scars. Sometimes you don't get back what was taken from you. You just make sure they never take it from anyone else again. Hospitals always smell like endings. I wore a cap, mask, glasses. Nothing fancy. Just enough to blend in. No one noticed as I walked through the corridors, past grieving families, drowsy nurses, and the quiet hum of machines keeping people alive when their minds had already left. Her room was at the end of the hall. Private. Paid for by someone else, I assumed. Maybe her family. Maybe guilt. I stepped in. There she was. Mira. Pale. Tubes in her arm. Eyes closed. No makeup. No performance. Just a human body in temporary pause. For a moment, I didn't recognize her. The version I fought against had teeth, charm, calculation. This version looked like a ghost waiting for permission to leave. I stood there for 5 minutes. Didn't move. Didn't cry. Just watched. Then I pulled a folded note from my jacket and placed it next to her bed. Didn't say a word. Just walked out. The note said, you didn't break me. You built me. And I'll spend the rest of my life making sure no one else gets built by people like you. I walked past her family in the lobby. They didn't even notice. She may wake up tomorrow. Or not. But either way, I wouldn't be there. 3 weeks later, I got an email from an old, and used account. Subject: I know it was you. It was from Nikhil, my brother. No threats. No begging. Just a simple, brutal letter. You ruined me. You turned the investors, the family, the public against me. But the worst part isn't what you did. It's realizing that you had the right to. I knew what she was doing to you. I just didn't want it to get in the way of what I wanted. And now I have nothing. Not even the version of you that used to call me bye. He ended the message with, if you're out there. I'm sorry, but I know sorry won't get you back. None of us will. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't feel anything, but because he was right. The Ravi they all knew he was dead. And Armin Kale didn't owe anyone closure. I mailed it anonymously. A single USB. To a mid-tier journalist, not a mainstream one, but someone who still had the guts to chase what mattered. Inside the drive, full documentation of Mira's timeline audio files, legal history, redacted names of victims, a closing folder titled, Pattern of Predators. It wasn't about keeping her downfall alive. It was about making sure the silence never settled back in. The journalist published the piece under a haunting title, Forgiveness Fatigue. When the abuser becomes the brand, it didn't trend. It didn't go viral. But it hit deep. The right people saw it, referenced it, shared it in law classrooms, psychology forums, survivor spaces. It became part of a bigger conversation. Not about Mira. About what she represented. That was enough. I didn't need applause. I just needed the truth to outlive me. Mira survived. That much I knew. She never posted again, never gave another interview, but her silence was no longer seen as strength. It was surrender. The court didn't move forward with her defamation case. The judge quietly dismissed it as non-meritorious and inconsistent with verified documentation. It wasn't a victory in headlines, but it was real. And while her name faded from the news cycle, I began hearing whispers in forums, group chats, subreddits. People calling out others with similar patterns, referencing the Mira blueprint, using our footage as evidence that silence could be broken without screaming. We didn't start a movement, but we lit the match. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still waiting. Some thread I hadn't pulled. Some consequence that hadn't arrived. It came on a Sunday morning. From the one person who didn't even know I existed. It was a mutual connection who sent me the clip. A grainy video, probably taken at a friend's birthday party. Balloons, kids screaming in the background. Then a voice, small, curious, clear. Mom, where's my dad? The child. Mira's son. The boy who bore my name without my blood. The clip cut right after that question. No answer. No explanation. Just the truth slipping through in a child's voice. I watched it 3 times. Not because it hurt, but because it didn't. I didn't hate him. Didn't resent him. I just knew something that child didn't. The story he'd been born into wasn't his fault, but it would follow him if no one ever told the truth. And maybe, just maybe, one day he'd go looking for it. So I made a choice. The letter I once burned? I rewrote it. It wasn't long. Wasn't flowery. Just honest. You don't know me, but my name used to be Ravi Sharma. That name is gone now. But once, it meant something. To your mother. To her family. To mine. They all forgot what it stood for. But you don't have to. You were not a mistake. But the story you've been told might be. When you're old enough, and if you ever find this, ask questions. All of them. Don't let fear become your silence. And remember, you never owe loyalty to a lie. Not even if it raised you. I printed it. Put it in an envelope. Didn't address it to the child. Didn't send it to Mira. Just mailed it to her old address with no return stamp. If it found its way into the right hands, fine. If not, that was okay too. Because the point wasn't to change his life. It was to make sure someone knew I tried. I sold everything tied to the name Armin Kale. The studio above the mechanic's shop. The fake consulting site. The burner phones. Every tool that had built the takedown. Gone. Wiped. Burned. I drained the last of my digital wallets. Took a bus to a smaller coastal town no one tracks. And paid 3 months' rent in advance for a concrete room above a fish market. No Wi-Fi. No ID needed. No questions asked. The landlord thought I was a failed writer. I let him believe that. The plan wasn't to rebuild again. It was to disappear completely. Not because I was hiding. Because I had nothing left to prove. Everyone I needed to confront had been confronted. Everyone I once waited on to apologize, to understand, to listen, they had their chance. I wasn't owed closure anymore. I was owed quiet. Every morning, I walked to a stretch of beach locals didn't care about. No tourists. No yoga classes. Just silence, wind, and the occasional dog asleep in the sand. Some days I sat for hours, just watching the tide crawl in, erase footprints, pull away again. That beach taught me something the world never did. Everything gets washed eventually. Names, scandals, stories, even revenge. I started writing, not for anyone else, just for myself. Fragments, observations, memories, what it felt like to be forgotten and feared at the same time. There was no audience now, no screen, no mask, just a man with a past no one could Google. And for the first time in years, that felt like freedom. A woman joined me one morning on the beach. Didn't say much at first, just nodded, sat a few feet away. We shared silence. Eventually, we talked. She lost her brother to suicide. Said he was broken by a woman who twisted every truth until he didn't know who he was anymore. Said he left a note with a list of people she'd done it to. One of the names was mine, but she didn't recognize me. She never saw Ravi Sharma's face. I didn't tell her, just listened. We sat on that beach for hours, two people joined not by healing, but by what healing had cost. Before she left, she said, "I don't believe justice exists. Not real justice. Just damage control." I nodded. Justice doesn't undo pain, I told her. It just makes sure no one calls it love again. She blinked, then smiled, and walked away. I didn't call it healing. I didn't call it peace. I just called it after. After the war. After the name. After the noise. I learned to live without needing to be recognized. To walk into markets without scanning faces. To eat alone without checking for headlines on nearby phones. But even in the calm, the scars stayed. Some nights I'd wake up mid-sentence, arguing with people who weren't there. Other times, I'd dream about my old apartment. About dinners that went silent. About family meetings where I was the only one bleeding. Some wounds don't close. They just stop demanding attention. I'd never be healed, but I wasn't broken anymore. I was just something else now, and that was enough. 6 months later, a book appeared on an indie publisher's site. No author photo, no bio, just a name, The Ghost in the Glass. The blurb was short, a fictionalized account of one man's revenge against betrayal, silence, and the people who sold him for comfort. The book didn't trend. It didn't win awards, but it moved. It crawled into private book clubs, reader forums, healing groups. People didn't read it to be entertained. They read it to recognize themselves. It became the kind of book people pass to friends with a sentence like, "This won't make you feel better, but it'll make you feel seen." And slowly, quietly, it built something Mira never could: trust. A few readers guessed the story was real. A few guessed who wrote it. But most didn't care. They just wanted to know that someone survived. One rainy afternoon, I walked into a tiny internet cafe off the highway. Dusty keyboard. Weak signal. Unread inbox. I opened a new email. Typed slowly. To my mother. "I'm alive. I don't need anything. I forgave you a long time ago, not because you asked, but because I had to. I just didn't want your last memory of me to be silence. Don't look for me. I'm not coming back. But I'm okay." No signature. No location. Just a single word in the subject line. Closure. I had sinned. Didn't wait for a reply. Didn't refresh the screen. Just walked out into the rain like I didn't owe the world anything anymore. Because I didn't. I had buried the old names. And I had one final stop left, my own grave. It was a small cemetery. No fancy gates. No marble statues. Just an open field where people's names slowly faded with time and weather. I found it near a town I'd never lived in. I paid a man in cash to carve a headstone. No death certificate needed. No ID required. Just money and the right amount of silence. It read, "Ravi Sharma, born 1989, died 2024, he was here." That's enough. No visitors. I came once a year. Sat by it. Didn't speak. Didn't cry. Didn't ask for anything. I just sat there the way people sit by the edge of a cliff, not to jump, but to remember how far they've walked to get there. No one else ever came. No flowers. No offerings. Just wind. Just me. People thought Ravi died when he vanished. But the truth is, he died the day no one believed him. Everything after that. Survival with a new name. And the man who survived didn't need applause or redemption. He just needed space to rest, even if it wasn't 6 feet deep. I live above a small tailor shop now. The man downstairs doesn't know my real name. He thinks I'm a retired teacher who writes poetry no one reads. I let him believe that. Every morning, I drink strong black tea, stretch my legs, and smile at strangers who'll never know what I walked through. And I'm okay with that. Because I didn't vanish to escape. I vanished to become someone who mattered to myself. That's the part no one tells you. Revenge doesn't fix everything. It doesn't bring back the old version of you. It doesn't heal what betrayal broke. But sometimes, it gives you something else: clarity, conviction, control. And that's enough. I'm not a ghost anymore. I'm just a man who lived through fire and walked out holding the match. Now let me ask you, the one watching this right now, did you feel it? Did this story make you pause? Make you look at love, betrayal, survival a little differently? Then don't just vanish like I did. Drop a like if this journey pulled you in. Share it with someone who's ever been made to feel small for standing up. And if you want more stories that hit like this, subscribe and hit that bell icon so you don't miss the next one. This wasn't just a revenge tale. This was about what happens after. Now we want to hear from you. Tell us in the comments. How did this story land for you? What moment hit the hardest? What part stayed with you after the screen went dark? Don't just scroll. Speak. Because somewhere out there, someone needs to know they're not alone. And maybe, just maybe, you're the reason they finally feel seen.